I am going to Ireland tomorrow, to Dublin more specifically, because I'm going to participate in a keyboard event organized by employees of Microsoft, and I'm going to give a small presentation. So, the idea is that I'm gonna film a little bit during the trip and give you guys some insight and information on what's happening, and hopefully, we're gonna have a lot of fun. So, here's what I'm taking with me. In this bag, those are mostly raincoats, actually, half raincoats and some pants, and just in general things that I might need for Ireland, because as far as I've seen, it's gonna be raining the whole week. Then on this side here, I have my alpaca pouch. I don't remember the exact name, with my work phone for Discord and emails and so on. I've got my wireless headphones that I always take with me when traveling by train or by plane. I have my wallet, my passport in here because I will need it when going to Ireland. And then on the interesting side of things, so I have a Dilemma low profile with MBK keycaps. I have a Dilemma with MX switches and those fancy metal plates. And speaking of metal plates, I am taking the Manfrotto tripods with magnets. And I do prefer the newer Z Flex ones, but the reason I'm taking those is those are really light and really small to travel with. I am also taking a camera tripod, and I am filming with a selfie stick as well as a phone adapter. So I will be able to document things properly. I would have liked to get a gimbal, but that will be for next time. On top of this, I'm also taking my daily driver, which is a Charybdis Nano, as well as a purple trackball, which I believe is in the bag here. So this is a pretty small bag I'm taking with me, a tote bag by Patagonia. And the reason I'm taking this one is that it is waterproof-ish, as you can see, because it is raining quite a lot here in Dordrecht right now. And everything fits pretty nicely. And then when I plan to take a few days there as well to travel and visit a little bit, which is also why I'm taking a water bottle with me and some walking shoes. Then I have some prototypes here as well as Splintegrated and an assembled 4x6 plate. This guy wants to come with me. No, he cannot go to Ireland. I'm sorry. And here I just have an external battery and some cables, because that is always useful to have when traveling. So now what's left is I'm gonna put everything in this bag, and that's gonna be two bags for which is going to make the travel by airplane pretty okay. And I will be back with more updates. As you can see, everything fits nice and cozy. I want those two magnets go here. Inside there, I also have some slides that I'm gonna use during the presentation with some information I want to talk about. And then those go also in the bag. There we go. And as you can see, including this, everything fits nice and tidy. The only thing left is that I have a pretty large laptop, which will not fit here. So I will get in touch with them to see if I can borrow a computer there. Otherwise, I will probably have to fit it in this bag somehow. All right, there we go. Hey, if it works, it works. just arrived in Ireland, and I still cannot believe it. This is crazy to for me to go on a business trip for keyboards. Um, the trip itself went terrible because of rush hour and late plane and a lot of rain, but I'm happy to report I made it safely. I'm staying in a chalet in the small city of Portaluaz. Please, if you're Irish, don't kill me for the pronunciation. But I went ahead and I got some groceries because I have a kitchen, so I'm very glad for that. I don't really like eating out every day. And tomorrow I am driving back to Dublin, which is around an hour drive, and I'm planning on spending the afternoon at Microsoft to visit their building a little bit. I've heard it's beautiful, and I haven't looked at any pictures on purpose because I'm very curious on checking it out. I brought everything. I did bring my laptop as well to do a bit of work whenever I can. And I have my little papers as well for the presentation. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty nervous, but I think it's gonna go alright. The story started in 2018. In 2018, I was working a regular IT job, mostly doing a lot of coding all day. And at this point, I was already working in IT for 3 years. And I started getting symptoms of what's called RSI, repetitive stress injury. And what happens is that, oh, yeah, like it was, like it was mentioned, when you work at a typical desk with a typical keyboard, you end up usually in this position, which is the wrists very close to each other, the shoulders very close to each other, and then you move the mouse in a very specific motion. And when you do this over and over and over again the whole day, you end up developing pains in specific places of your wrist or arm. That's called RSI. And it got bad enough that at the end of the day, some days I wouldn't even be able to move the mouse. So what I did is I got a vertical mouse, and that helped a little bit. But I decided to take my health a little bit more seriously because it was impacting my work and also how much I could use computers at home. And I started going into the world of what's called ergonomic keyboards. And yes. And as I went deeper and deeper into doing research and finding out all the flat keyboards that were previously talked about, I started to realize that if I wanted something really extreme, as in the most ergonomic thing I could find, I would have to do it yourself because I looked into the market and there was not really anything you could buy that would work directly. So what I found is this, that is called a dactyl keyboard, and this is a split keyboard. So a split keyboard means that you have one for each hand. That's great. Suddenly you can put your shoulders in a bit of a more relaxed position, and depending on the length of your arm or whether you are on a standing or sitting desk, you can put the keyboards wherever you want on the desk. On top of this, it has a bunch of other features, like it's 3D printed, so it adds additional curves and so on. Um, so back then, I had just gotten a 3D printer, so I was really, really enthusiastic about it. So I downloaded a few models from internet, I built one, and I started using it. And it actually worked. I started having less and less symptoms of RSI until eventually it got away. And I got interested enough that I started getting involved into communities around ergonomic keyboards on Discord and Reddit. However, this is what it looked like inside. So because this is a 3D keyboard and because there's no commercially available solutions, what you have to do is you go to your local 3D printing lab, or maybe you have a 3D printer at home, and then you install some switches, and then you get some wires, and then you get out your soldering iron, and then you clip everything correctly, and then you solder in everything, and then you get an Arduino Pro Micro from maybe AliExpress or Amazon, and then you hot glue it, or maybe you melt it in, and then hopefully it works, and then you look at it too hard, or like you move it a little bit on the desk and then it starts not working again. And until a few years ago, that's what everyone did. um, so around that time, 3 years and a half ago, is when I moved to Netherlands, on what was supposed to be a holiday, but I had a lot of time on my hands. And while getting involved in those ergonomic niche communities, I realized that I was not alone having those RSI issues. And I also realized that a lot of people that wanted to take matters into their own hands a little bit were just blocked because it's a very high barrier of entry. You need a 3D printer, you need soldering skills, you need programming skills as well. And for someone who is maybe not that much into computer tech, it's very intimidating. So what I started to do is building some and shipping them to people who actually wanted to use them. And back then I started to understand that this could actually be some kind of permanent job for me, just helping people get over their health issues with typing on the computer. But because of this, building a full keyboard took me between 10 and 20 hours. And when the person received it, there was a chance that because the package was not taken care of at the post office or something happened in shipping, then the keyboard wouldn't work anymore. So because of that, I started designing stuff to improve on the existing keyboards. Clicky, clicky. Yes. So here, thanks. On the left here, you have a flexible PCB. So PCB is printed circuit board, and that is, it's exactly the same thing that goes into your computers and laptops and everything, except this one is a bit special because it's flexible. You can bend it, and you need to bend it because it goes into a 3D printed keyboard. And it does exist a little bit, and there's some companies using them, but all the ones I could find were closed source and not available to the public. So I basically had to design my own. And that helped a lot with building them, and I could actually get a bit more time, a little bit less time building things, and a little bit more time designing. And at one point, I made this on the top right, and this is called a skeleton, and it has 5 times 3 plus 3, that's 18 keys per side. So in total, that's 36 keys. On a normal keyboard, you have what, like 100, 110 switches, keys or something. And when I made this, it was a little bit of a challenge for myself, thinking, so if you're going to do things ergonomic, it makes sense to move your hands less because then you don't need to take a look at the keyboard, you don't need to move your hand around. So this was supposed to be an extreme example of what you could get if you really push the limits of what you're ready to work with. And I open sourced it because it was kind of a joke back then, and I didn't expect people to use it. Um, Except people started to use it. Back then, the 36 keys designs were getting pretty popular, and people back then also started to work on solutions because suddenly, oh, you don't have a control key, you don't have an escape key, you don't have a space key. How do you actually use it in a context of maybe writing emails or programming? Mm. And then, because this was popular back then, I decided that I wanted also not only to work on existing keyboards and make them more approachable, more reliable, but I also wanted to make something a little bit more, to innovate a little bit more. And so those are some examples of projects I did in the last few years. So I actually brought them with me here today if you want to take a look at them. The one on the right has a trackball, and that was part of an idea, which is if you're doing everything you can on your keyboard to move your hands less and in a more ergonomic way, then you might as well also integrate the trackball. And more than the trackball, others also worked on adding trackpads and joysticks. There's also some screens sometimes going on for additional information. So in the middle, this is a sensor PCB that I made for detecting the position of the trackball. And it was the same situation as with this flexible PCB, which is there was something available, but it was restricted to only one shop that made it, and it was closed source. So with this design, I also took the decision to publish it open source. So all of the designs you've seen here and all of those I make are open source because the idea is also that I try to make reusable designs, as in the sensor in the middle, and on the left you can see what is essentially an Arduino Pro Micro, but using a more modern chip and additional features. The idea is that if you want, you can just get it at home, order it from manufacturer, and then build your own. Either something that I created, or maybe if you have a designing software like Fusion 360 and you have a printer like here, the idea is that you can design your own and then connect those parts together, and then it just works. So speaking of the Arduino Pro Micro on the left here, if you a few slides ago you saw that there was those cables everywhere, and the issue is that when you start building those, you have to do a lot of work yourself. You have to connect everything manually. Whereas if you have the possibility to order things manufactured online, then suddenly you can think about, oh, instead of installing the components myself, the manufacturing plant is going to do it for me. And if I need to order 5 of 10 of those and give them to my friends, that's also fine with me. So 3 years and a half ago, I started with what you saw earlier, the massive cables, and 3 years and a half later, I'm in front of you guys talking to you. It's been a pretty big adventure for me. And on the company side of things, now it's kind of starting to turn into a proper thing where I can actually budget research for prototypes, and I'm trying also to get into YouTube to teach people and entertain people. but I'm constantly working on prototypes, and I actually brought a few of them today. So one of those is this one here, and over there I brought the Arduino Pro Macro clone I was talking about. And there's also a bunch of keyboards that are here if you want to try them. And we're gonna have some of them connected to computers as well if you want to see how usable they are. And I'm gonna be honest, when you start, it's a lot of work to get into them because yeah, where are all the keys? So thank you for your attention. I hope this was interesting. And if you guys have questions. And quick update, I'm back at Budget. The meeting at Microsoft actually went really well. I had a lot of fun. But on the way back, the car check engine light turned on. And it turns out that I rented a company whose name starts with B. And it's impossible to reach them by phone. So I just directly drove there, lost a few hours. But I'm here, and apparently they are switching the car. There's an airplane going by. And they are absolutely impossible to reach my phone. So I directly drove there, and the employee working there told me that even they cannot reach them. So it's really bad. Now I'm waiting, and I don't know, I will get another car, I guess, I hope. So yeah, not a great end to the day, but the day was great. I filmed a lot of videos inside Microsoft. We recorded the session as well. I cannot wait to show it to you guys.